What does it take to be a successful entrepreneur? A dangerous amount of coffee and a ton of grit. My name is Jason Tracy, and every week I interview business leaders to share their stories, life lessons, failures, and advice with you. Welcome to Coffee and Grit. Let's get that roar going, baby. What is up? What is up? What is up? Welcome back to another episode of Coffee and Grit. And these are some of my favorite episodes is when I have past guests back on. I think going back and being in sales, one of my favorite things was building relationships with clients and watching as life grew, right? Watching as their kids grew up, went to college, had their own families, and intermixed families when you have one other clients, and you're just watching that life grow. And I think that's why I love that relationship piece and watching people. And man, I met John probably about 5-6 years ago now, and I had him on Coffee and Gritty's episode number 14. Finding sunshine in the rain. And what's so cool, I had to have John back on along with his wife Hannah because his episode just keeps skyrocketing. In fact, it's the top 5 most listened to episode this year and over the past year, which is really awesome because it was literally recorded it's probably recorded in August of 2020 because it came out in September of 2020. And so it's super cool to see people continually listen to this episode. This is the only throwback episode that reoccurringly pops up in my top 5, top 10 most listened to. So it was a phenomenal episode. I had an amazing conversation with John, and what's so cool now, again, it's been 4 years in seeing how life grew. And so welcome, John and Hannah. I will leave it to that, and we'll check in with you guys. How's it going?
All right. Awesome. Things are going well. We're so happy to be here. And I guess for me, it's my first time on, so I'm glad to be here with John and with you and just be able to chat about what's happened in the last 4 years.
Exactly. And we've had such a phenomenal conversation already. It's like, John's like, what do we want to talk about? And like this stuff that we're talking about right here is kind of how it goes. Right? It's life, right?
Yeah.
And how it happens and how it unfolds. And I remember I was listening to the last episode and John had mentioned that his girlfriend lived in Fenton. And it's just, again, it's cool to see how life changed. And then you two started telling me kind of the story and how you're measuring your relationship around like COVID, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now we're married and we have a kid.
A
lot has changed.
A lot has changed.
Yeah, it's awesome.
But kind of what's the same, and I love this, is because you were sitting across from me and you were soaking wet because it's pouring down rain today. There's like this monsoon out, and you couldn't find a parking spot, so it's like down the street. And so John's across from me, and he's soaking wet in rain, and it's like laughing that the last episode was finding sunshine in the rain, and kind of remembering the story you told me about going knocking on the doors with the which inspired the title of the episode. So some things don't change.
Yeah, still looking for some more sunshine in the rain, right?
Exactly, right? This is the sunshine right here.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's so good. Yeah.
So tell me, because you were just talking about it, tell me how you two kind of came to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we grew up going to church together. So that's how we met. But everything with our relationship kind of really started in March of 2020, which is when the whole, COVID shutdown happened. So at the time I owned 2 businesses. I had a dance studio that I was running, and also Pipsqueak Boutique, which I still own and run. So that day, I think it was March 16th. I don't know, the day that like literally everything shut down. I spent the morning at my dance studio, and we were like video recording, me and the other teachers. So we had something for the kids to work on while everything was shut down and they were at home. So we spent the whole morning doing that, shut that business down, spent the whole afternoon at Pipsqueak Boutique and kind of like wrapped up all the last minute stuff, closed the doors. And like, I didn't know how long it was going to be. I thought, 2 weeks we'll be closed, then we'll be back open. It ended up being months, but anyway, so that was the morning, the afternoon, and then I went back home, and he came over for dinner that night at my parents' house, and that's when he asked me, if we wanted to start a relationship, and so it was all one day, boom, 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 everything happened.
That's so awesome, because what a measurement.
I know, seriously, yeah. It's crazy. There's like a very distinct date that we can look back and remember, and it was good. It was in a lot of ways. I mean, I know COVID was such a hard time, and but I guess in the same way, that was kind of our sunshine in the middle of the rain for us too, that we had, the start of this relationship, even though it was a hard time kind of for the rest of the world. So, yeah.
Up until then, Hannah wouldn't have had time to start a relationship or get to know me because she was running her business 24/7 pretty much.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of like God brought the whole world to a stop so that we could start our relationship.
I was going to say, what a God moment. I got the chills with that and that realization that, wow, how that worked out.
Yeah. My mom was actually praying that something would happen, that I could take a break from my businesses so I would have time to, find someone to get married.
Thanks, Mom. You brought COVID.
I don't think that's what she was praying for. But yeah, I think that moms know.
That is so cool how, again, finding the sunshine in the rain, right?
Right. It totally was. Yeah. Yeah. There was a lot of hard things about it, but, we could see that that was God's will for us. And I mean, the businesses, are still doing great. I ended up selling the dance studio after we got married because we knew we wanted to have kids and start a family. And that business seemed like it was a difficult one to keep on with children. But the kids' clothing store seemed like it kind of fit in with life. So I actually sold it to one of my students who had grown up dancing with me at the dance studio.
Oh, so cool.
And at the time she was 18, and which was about the age I was when I started the business. So it's just kind of, she seemed like, she was kind of walking in the footsteps that I did, and she's still doing really well. The business is still running well. So His Feet Dance is the name of it if anyone's looking for a dance studio.
His Feet Dance?
His Feet Dance is what it's called. So, yep, still going strong, which I'm very proud of.
How cool is that when you can hand it
awesome.
off and watch it still
go? It's so great. Yeah. Yeah. I've been so thankful to see that. And yeah. And Pipsqueak Boutique is still doing great too. So that's what I'm, working on now. And I've got a little guy who's my model for the store and kind of the face of Pipsqueak. So
amazing.
Lots of cool things. Lots has changed in the last 4 years, right?
Ask Hannah how many businesses she started in her lifetime.
Oh, goodness. Oh, my goodness. I don't even know if I can count. How I actually got into Pipsqueak Boutique, I was at the time, I had a sewing business where I would sew and make like baby items, kids items, doll items, and I wanted a place to sell them. I was selling them online, but I wanted something local. And my mom was shopping in Pipsqueak Boutique at the time for my little sister. And so she brought me in one day and she's like, just bring some of the things you make and show it to the owner and see if she wants to sell it. So I did. I showed it to her and she's like, yeah, we'll sell it. So she started selling my items in her store. And I was like, just so excited and felt proud that I had like an actual shop. I was selling my items. And one day we went in and she had a big hiring sign out there. So I was like, what if I work here for you? Like I can work after school. And so she hired me on and I was working there for probably 7 or 8 years. Before she was ready to sell for other personal reasons. And she was like, all the clients, the whole system, you've been here for so long. Do you want to buy it? So yeah, that was really cool. And I guess one thing too, is kind of a little plug for John, is at the time that I was working, I saved all of the money that I made from working at Pipsqueak and I put it in an Edward Jones account. It wasn't with him at the time because I didn't know him. But I put it all in an Edward Jones account and just saved it and let it grow. And then when it came time to purchase the business, I had enough in my savings from all the time that I had worked there to purchase it without any debt. So I paid cash for the business and it was all through the Edward Jones account that I was able to make that happen.
Wow.
So,
again, kind of just how that was aligned. Like, what are the chances of that?
I know. Yeah. Yeah.
So you asked what brought us together. This was kind of one of the things that drew our interest in each other was our love for business. I think I mentioned when we first started that Hannah's 4 years older than me. So when we first met, I was 12 and she was 16.
Yeah.
So we went to church together. My dad's the pastor of our church. Her dad is one of the elders of our church, but we didn't really think of each other in that way. But as you get older, that age gap means less and less.
Yeah.
So true.
And so she says that when I went to St. Louis for 6 months of training with Edward Jones, and then I came back wearing suits and talking about business. And also, this is a side story, but while I was in St. Louis, I got a second job selling suits for Joseph A. Bank, working nights there. And so coming back, I was working in clothing. She was working in clothing. I was building my business. She was building her business. And so we just start talking about it after church. And we were like, hey, this is a lot of fun to talk to.
It's like somebody that can relate and understand what you're doing and what you're going through.
It's totally true. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, before he went away, it felt like, we were pals, we were chums, we'd play kickball together and whatever. But when he came back, it was like, he's in suits, he's dressed nice.
Who's this guy?
Who's this guy? Yeah. It really felt like almost getting to know a whole new guy. And I think that's what really attracted me to him.
That's so awesome because that's what attracted me to John too. In all seriousness, and I talked about this in the last episode, is I met him at a networking event. I think Wendy Caverly put together this event at a business coach that I had at the time at his office, and so there was a lot of people, and I gravitated towards John because by the way he carried himself, because you did look 12, and I'm like, who's this young kid, man? Like he's just like, he seems like a difference maker, and we talked about that a lot in the last episode. So I can see, kind of what draws what draws you to that difference making, and when you're doing it, when you're both doing it together, that's so cool.
Yeah, yeah, and I think just him being in business, he was, he very entrepreneurial. He had to start his own business. He had to work from the ground up. And that's something that I was going through, I was experiencing at the time. And even just like me, at the time that he came back, it was around the time when I was purchasing Pipsqueak. So I was kind of like looking into like, how do I do this? How do I take over a business? Even some financial stuff. So I even had some questions I was able to ask him and like kind of talk through. And I was like, I could see this being, not a helpful relationship in a lot of ways, for our business especially. And I think that that's something that really drew us together was the shared mind for business. And we both really had that entrepreneurial mindset. So
We make a good team.
it's true.
I see it. And that's what I was like, when I talked to you, I'm like, I got to have both of you. And when we had to reschedule because Samuel got sick. And you're like, I could come on without Hannah. And I'm like, no, let's just reschedule because I want both of you on. Because that's the point is we haven't had a one-on-one.
Right.
Before. And this would be the second time I'd knock coffee over. That's why they don't allow me to have coffee. And they set my time at 2 so I don't bring coffee in because I throw it on the walls.
Oh,
Watching you two online, like, you're just adorable, and you see, how you two just really work together and have that synergy. In the last several episodes, I've had a lot of couples on.
Yeah, that's cool.
Couples that have had to work together in business, or that they own businesses, because I've had listeners that have reached out to me and that are entering those relationships, right? They're either their husband and them or wife, or they're now working together in the business, or they both have businesses. And it's like, how do you survive that? And so that's one of the reasons. And seeing you two just, social media is one thing, but I know that you two are just so authentic.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I mean, I guess there definitely are challenges to like being a couple running a business. I mean, we don't run, one business together. It's two separate ones, but in a lot of ways it feels kind of like they intertwine and they're like one and the same. And it almost feels like both of them are family businesses that we're helping each other on. And John has come to help me at Pipsqueak a lot with, especially when we do big events or different things where, we're setting up, tearing down, whatever. He comes along, and he even, there was one event that we went to, we were setting up a little booth in downtown Fenton and giving out free lemonade and coupons to like get people excited about our store. And he went around with this stack of coupons for Pipsqueak Boutique, and he went way beyond the booth, and he was just in all the streets of downtown, like using all his door knocking skills.
Yes.
And like, have you heard of Pipsqueak Boutique? And like giving out these coupons to everyone. And I was like, this is so awesome. Like, how cool that
I had my business cards in the other hand. I was pulling double duty.
Yeah, right. Kind of goes hand in hand, right? Do you have kids? Do you need a financial advisor?
If you have kids, you need a financial advisor.
Yeah,
so here you go.
It really goes hand in hand, yeah.
So we have a lot of synergy between the two businesses, which is actually why we started our own networking group. When I was starting my business with Edward Jones, I got to work with a lot of realtors and mortgage brokers and attorneys and CPAs and all those kinds of businesses. And Hannah was really building a lot of connections with, photographers and massage therapists and chiropractors and videographers. And when we sat down and we looked at our two networks, we were like, there's a lot of ways that we could plug these two networks into each other, kind of combine our two networks. Plus my business is in Brighton, hers is in Fenton. And I had just won back-to-back MVPs in my CirrusNet group.
Back-to-back?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a dynasty.
That's awesome.
And so Steve Zakowski, the founder of CirrusNet, he reached out to me and he said, would you be interested in starting your own CirrusNet team? And I said, could we do it together as co-facilitators, me and Hannah? And he was like, we've never done that before, but I don't see why not. So we launched our own very first co-facilitator networking group with CirrusNet. And that's been really cool because one example is somebody came into Pipsqueak as a customer. Hannah talked to her all about our networking group. She joined our networking group to represent her business, and then she became a client of mine with Edward Jones. So, we always have something to plug people in with.
Yeah.
It is rooted into building relationships with people.
It really is, yeah. And I think that's a huge thing of both of our businesses. Like, he's especially into building relationships with people because he, sits down with them and looks at kind of their whole life plan. And but just like the two of us collectively, I think just love talking to people and are really interested in their life story and what they have to share. And with me, like, mine's all about kids, which is so often like, the big part of people's life story, like whether it's grandkids, kids, nephews, nieces, whatever it is, like kids have such a special place in people's hearts. And so for me, like trying to find customers or like even just talk to the people who come in the door, it's like, who are your kids? Tell me about who you're shopping for. What are you doing here? And it just like, it brings in, kind of that sense of relationship building, like you said. And if he's there with me, we just like, honestly, we take up all the person's time. We just stand there all day and chat with them. But we really love people and love building relationships. So that's definitely something that I think helps both of us in building our business and getting more customers. And
well, I can just feel, and I talk about being a difference maker quite a bit. It's my thing, but like literally making a difference in people's days, because that's kind of the lost thing that you see in retail now, or you see in business period, is that that relationship and the wanting to get to know who people are.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely something that's kind of a motto for me with my store with Pipsqueak Boutique, because I want, the moment they walk in the door, I want that to be the best part of their day. And like, we want to greet them with a smile. We want to say, how's your day going? What's going on? Like, come in and shop. We've got really great things for you, and like just make them feel like they're welcome and valued and loved and appreciated where they are right there. So being the best part of the day, like that's what we want people experience at Pipsqueak to be.
I love it. I think it's a mindset for people in the sense of like whether you're working in a job or you own a retail, and you even I had somebody on that owns a retail shop and does well, but she was like, I don't want to bother people. But if you look at it different, like it's not bothering people. It's not selling them into something. It's not saying, hey, you need to try on this shirt. It's like, tell me about your kids.
Right.
It's like having that actual relationship conversation.
Yeah. I think for me personally, like I've always had a hard time having kind of like a, like I've got something for you kind of sales mindset. Like I really want to get to know the person instead. And I think I definitely had a lot more experience in that when I was in the dance studio business, when I was running the dance school. Because we had a lot of, they were younger girls who would come in and dance, and a lot of them, who knows what stage of life they're in. If they're, they're growing up, they're trying to figure out life, they're trying to figure out where they fit in the world. And it gives a lot of opportunity to talk to them and get to know their hearts. And a big part for like, it was a Christian dance studio I was running when I started His Feet Dance. And I really wanted to know, like, what's your relationship with God? And how are you doing with, with your love for the Lord? And like, how can we see dance as a way to worship Him? And so just like, that was something that I feel like I'm not selling dance. I want you guys to come in and like, what can you learn and gain from this? And like, if this is not the right fit for you, like, it's okay. But like, this is what we're trying to do, is build into your hearts. And now that I've like run that, I can kind of see the same thing for Pipsqueak. Not that it's like, we're going to, sit down and talk to you all about your backstory, but it's like, what can we offer to like help your day, to help, you're here for a reason, and we want to be a big part of your day. And we want to, whether you're shopping for a new grandbaby that's coming or it's your first baby, and like, we're going to help you like be part of this journey. So there's actually kind of a cool story to go along with that. There was a couple who came in last spring, and they picked out this little blue outfit and they picked out this little pink outfit, and they told the clerk, wrap these up, and we're going to hand you the envelope to know, like, we were part of their gender reveal. So they gave us the envelope so that we could know, like, okay, here's the actual bag we're going to give you, and go unopen it for your big gender reveal. So that was super special to be part of that,
That's
They're
so
like, how
cool.
can we make Pipsqueak be part of our gender reveal? And that just felt like we're part of the family now, to be wrapped up in that. So that was a really cool thing. I loved being part of that. I was like really stepping into someone's life and story.
They were like, how can we get you involved and make you part of the story?
Exactly. Right. It was so cool. Yeah. That was a big blessing for us to be a part of.
That's so awesome. That's so awesome.
Yeah. So I think no matter what business people are in, like there's always a way to step into their lives and to see like, how can we be part of your life? How can we help you? How can we, whatever it is that we have. I mean, obviously if you started a business, it's because you're passionate about something, and you're passionate about seeing other people have that thing, be part of that thing, whatever it is. So taking that passion and kind of passing it along, I think is a big part of what drives us.
Well, I think I shared this with you when I was on the show last time, but that was what got me into Edward Jones and got me into the financial services industry.
Yep.
Was my grandma worked for Edward Jones, and she had me shadow the financial advisor that she worked for. And I remember sitting in on an appointment with him, and his clients came in and said, we don't know what we would do without you, and we know our retirement's going to be okay because of you. And I was like, that is so cool, how irreplaceable he is to them and how much difference he's made in their lives. And I mentioned before, my dad's a pastor, and seeing the difference that he makes in people's lives spiritually, I felt like God was calling me to make a difference for people's lives financially, and then to also use it as my ministry. So along the same lines.
That was something that you told me right at first when we kind of started our relationship, when you were explaining like why you went into this business and why you chose to be a financial advisor. And you were like, you could see how your dad worked really personally with lives as being a pastor, and how much you wanted to be like part of that difference making too. And yeah, being a financial advisor is like, in a way, it's kind of the same, because you're like, there's so much about their life that they have to be vulnerable about and share with you. Like, this is our life. This is our story. This is also like the future that we're preparing for. So you can really step into that and be a help to the people in that way. I think that's really cool to see.
That's really cool. So like when you were on last time, we were talking a lot about knocking on doors and doing a lot of the organic stuff, building your business, and then COVID happens and that probably changes. What does that look like now for you? How does your business look like now? And how, what is that growth then, I guess?
Once COVID hit, Edward Jones said, no more knocking on doors. And that completely changed the way I was building my business. And so I really had to pivot to networking, social media, referrals, and just working with people. And so at this point, I've gone out a couple times door knocking just for fun, because I actually kind of enjoy it. I know I'm weird like that, but but at this point, my business is mostly growing off of referrals.
That's And so how do we're talking about a lot about the people and the relationships. That's how you build that, right? It takes that time to.
Absolutely. You take really good care of somebody, and then they introduce you to another friend or family member, and they say, I want you to help so-and-so, and it just keeps growing.
Let me ask you, how does your social media play a role in that?
So I'll tell you a little bit of a story. Ted Jones was, I got to back up even a little bit further. Yeah. Edward Jones Sr. was the one who founded the company Edward Jones in 1922, and his son Ted Jones was kind of who grew it into what it is today. And he coined a phrase called the 1-2 punch. And what he meant by that is you hit them with face-to-face, or you go out door knocking, you meet them on their doorstep, and then you follow up with a phone call. That was his 1-2 punch in order to build your business. You got to meet them with a face-to-face and then follow up with a phone call. And to me today, I don't know if I coined this or if I stole it from somebody, I'm not sure, but I think you got to have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 set. Like, there's so many punches. You can meet them face to face, and then you can send them a thank you card, and then you can follow up with a phone call, and then you can friend them on Facebook, and you can keep up with them on email. And there's so many ways to be in front of people today that I see social media. I don't think that I'm necessarily going to build my business on social media, but I'm going to make those personal relationships with people, and then I'm going to stay connected with them on social media, and that's going to just be one of those punches that's going to keep it growing.
I love, as a podcast host, when I ask a question and I have no idea what somebody's answer is going to be, and it ends up being just phenomenal. And you're like, you thought about this. This is awesome. Surprise, sometimes I'll ask somebody like, I don't know. I didn't really think about it. Just kind of do it. Because sometimes as a visionary, you just do things. You don't really put a lot of thought into it. And you obviously have that strategy. And that's exactly the way I look at it too, as far as like social media isn't for me to sell or grow my business from that aspect. It's to continue building that relationship, because the hardest thing to do in sales, or in a business where people know that you're selling something, or that you're in any business you're selling something in order to stay alive, right? People look at that like, oh man, John's coming over, he's going to try to sell us on financial planning, all the stuff. I don't know. Like the nervousness, but like when you bring people into that social media and you bring them into your world, now you become a person. You know? And so when I meet people, I go and I connect with them on social media and I bring them in. And then when I create my posts and I do those things, it's not to sell them, it's to continue building that relationship. Mm-hmm. And then they see you and they build that no-leg trust without you having to go and have a meeting with them every week.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually have an SOP in our office where every time we're going to meet with a client, my office manager, Rob, who I work with, he and I will both pull up their social media before the appointment and scroll through and see, were there any life events, anything important to them that has happened for them in the last year, to be able to have those talking points, to like what you're saying.
And how impressed are they when you...
Yeah.
Because again, sounds so easy.
Yeah.
And it is, but so few people do this, right? And and even if some people look at their social media, they won't bring up that they know.
Right.
You adopted a dog last year.
Because what people are putting on Facebook is what's important to them.
Yep.
So if you're taking the time to look at it and then talk to them about it, they feel cared about.
Yeah. like to your point, you just got a dog.
Yeah,
you know?
right. Who else would just know that? But yeah, like he said, something that's important to them. If you also know, it's like you're stepping into their life, and it's just a totally different way for the customer to look at it than that you're trying to push something on them.
So something else that has changed in the last few years since last time you had me on is now Edward Jones has me coaching new financial advisors. And so one of the things that I always coach them on when they are out door knocking or building their business in whatever way it is that when you first meet a prospect, you first meet somebody that you would like as a client, don't start off talking about business right away. Try to become their friend first, because whenever you change the conversation to business, they try to put this wall up. Like you were saying, they get nervous. Yep. What's he going to try to sell me? So I always let them bring it up. I let them know, hey, I'm John Manwiller. I'm a financial advisor with Edward Jones. How long have you lived in the area? What's your favorite restaurant? Tell me about what you do. Tell me about your family, and get the conversation started. And then naturally at some point they'll say, so Edward Jones, tell me more about it. And now the wall doesn't have to go up because we're already friends.
Yep. Yeah. It's when you start selling, like people bring that wall up to your point, and it's so much harder. And the thing is like you have a client for the long haul. You're working with them for how long? How long?
A lifetime.
Lifetime, right?
Potentially, yeah. Or even multi-generationally. That's the thing that I tell people. When I first started with Edward Jones, I was 19, and so I'd be out knocking on doors, and people would be like, why do I want to put my life savings in an investment account with a teenager managing it when there's a 55-year-old, way more experienced financial advisor down the street? And my answer, one of my answers, what it was that I would always say, you could go work with that guy, and I won't deny he has more experience than I do, but he's going to retire in a few years, and you'll have to be looking for somebody new. I'm going to get you all the way to and maybe even through retirement, because I'm going to be here for the long haul, like you said.
I think you also mentioned too, like the other thing is he's kind of at retirement, and he's like kind of packing it in versus you're hungry and
yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Seeking the knowledge and trying to earn his business. There's like more desire there, more fire, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Not to knock the 55-year-old financial advisor. He's nothing wrong with working with one, but
it's just a different business mindset.
Yeah.
Well, and he asked you, in fairness, why should I work with you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have your reasons.
Yeah.
And those are good points. So tell me, how does life change having a son?
Oh, well, first of all, it's amazing. He's so sweet. He's 15 months old now, and he's just, active and chatting with us and exploring new things every day. So it's so much fun to be part of that, be parents and just watch him every day growing and exploring, and but definitely present some challenges. I think that there's always this kind of switching off, like when is my work schedule, when is his work schedule, how can we fit this in, and where does the baby go? And so that's been some challenge. And for me, I've been home with the baby and having employees work at the store, which is wonderful. But when I go in, I bring him. So that definitely presents a new challenge. I mean, he does fine, and he likes to be in the store, and he loves to see the people. But it's different than the days when I, didn't have a baby, and I could haul stuff up and down the stairs and do all the physical work and be there every day. And so it's new and different for sure. But it's still working great. And he's just part of our lives. He's going to grow up as a kid with both parents in business. And I think he'll see that every day and see the value of hard work. And so I think that's not something we want to keep from him.
5,000%. And the kids watch, right? And they observe, and they're smart, and they see what's going on, which is so awesome. And I've had so many guests on that have gotten the entrepreneurship bug from watching their parents, and whether their parents were successful or not in entrepreneurship. In fact, so many people I've had on, their parents were not successful in entrepreneurship, but they still saw that they were able to go do something on their own, and they just got this bug, and they went out and did something better, right? Sure. And it's so cool to see that. And then even to hear you two talking about how your parents or your dad, coming from a different sector. He's not in business. Well, I guess really. You're right. Church is business too, right?
Yeah.
To that point, when I first started my business with Edward Jones, I would tell my dad what I was doing, building my business, and he would tell me stories about when he planted our church 30 years ago, how he would go out knocking on doors, sending invitations to through the mail to thousands of people.
Flipping through a phone book.
Calling people in the white pages.
Yeah.
So
that's so crazy.
Yeah. A lot of overlap.
Yeah. He's got his
Things
call
have changed
script, like,
since then, yeah.
where are you going to church?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I know I caught myself without saying it. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
This is actually,
kind of is.
this is actually growing. It is growing a business. It
Yeah.
absolutely is. It's not even kind of, it is.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a business development, and you're growing your church. You're growing your business.
Building a business with eternal rewards.
Yeah. Which is also, I memean, that's kind of the goal for our businesses too.
Yeah.
Like everything we do, we want it to be, for the glory of God. And that's kind of our business models. And for me, like I saw that so clearly with the dance studio, because I was able to actually like sit down and talk with these kids about like, what's your walk with the Lord and how are you doing with your life? And but even with, owning Pipsqueak, I always have this kind of mindset, like God's the business owner and I'm working for him. And like, it really helps when there's really hard days and these like brick walls you can't get through. It's like, just take a deep breath and know that, God's got this. Like I can ask God for like, what do I do next? And he has given me all the business advice that I need. And that just like takes all the pressure off, but also reminds me like I'm, whatever I do, I'm working for God and like, he's got me here for a purpose, and running this business is that purpose for me. So I think that that's something that it kind of drives both of us. And I think that that's really a goal for both of our businesses is how can we, do what God has asked us to do here.
That's amazing. Have you two read the book, The Alchemist?
I don't think so. No.
Check it out. I ask so many guests whenever we talk about stuff like this.
Yeah.
It's like, it's kind of that same journey in that, God takes care of you, but it also isn't linear, and you've got to sometimes learn your lessons through here, in order to get here, and your whole story is there for a reason, right? Even the challenges.
It's
finding
so
sunshine in the rain.
That's right. I think that's probably a theme for us, right?
Yeah, exactly. I love how it's still relevant.
Yeah, 4 years later.
Because I'm sure you've heard the story about him knocking on the door and getting bit by the dog. And
oh yeah. Oh man, that's definitely some rain he had to find sunshine through.
But and like my whole point, and and I talked about recognizing John being a difference maker, and I can say that for both of you now at this point. But there's so many people, and I talked about in that episode, there's so many people that do that knocking on the doors and they're complaining about the rain, and then they get bit by the dog and they go home. John was like, I got one more door.
Really easy to quit. Yeah, right. Yeah. I think that was always that's kind of always what you were telling yourself is like, just one more. After this, I've got just one more. And that kind of drove you.
I'm a big baseball fan, and so I'm a big numbers guy. And Babe Ruth once said that every strike brings me one pitch closer to the next home run. And so I just look at it as a batting average. I used to, when I was out knocking on doors, I would keep track of how many doors I knocked on, how many opened, how many people I talked to, how many phone numbers I got, and then today, how many have become clients.
Yeah.
And I would run my batting average essentially, and I'd be like, okay, I've knocked on 10 doors in a row that didn't answer. I'm due, right?
Dude, that's what you kept on saying in the last episode. I love it. Yeah. And that's how I looked at it too in business. Is like, because I love sports and that same thing, and like looking at the averages, and it's like, I'm due.
Yeah.
It makes such a difference in like the grind that you've got to put into start a business and keep it running. Is if you don't, like, you can't look at the rejection and what people have said against your business or against you personally, or like whatever they say, like that's not what you look at. You don't look at the doors closed in your face or the doorbells that no one answered or whatever. Like you got to just do the one more and what's next. And there's a client who's coming, next. There's a customer who I'm going to talk to next. And like, if you keep your focus on that and keep your focus on just like the couple you reached, like reaching out to 1,000 people is worth it if you get one to respond, like, because that's that one, like think about their life and they need to be changed by whatever it is that you have to offer. And it's worth all the other 1,000.
Or what if you've reached out to 1,000 people and it was that 1,001st person that was going to be your $1 million client?
You should not have stopped at 1,000 because the next one was going to be, that's your breakthrough.
Not even your $1 million client, but how did you impact their life?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at that, because again, you come in and you're impacting and changing lives, even if they're just coming into your shop, that energy and that attention and that conversation you're giving them, people are searching for that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes it so special, is because that is the biggest human need outside of food and water, is to be seen, heard, and felt, to feel needed. And, when that was my biggest thing running retail stores. It's like, this is going to be like the Cheers atmosphere. Everybody's going to know we're going to know all of our people's names when they come in. They're not going to have to explain their problem over and over again. We're going to understand their story. We're going to know their family. And when that happens, and when they come in and they're in a bad mood, my goal is like, even if I don't fix your problem, you're going to leave here today and you're going to be in a better mood.
How can you make it better?
Yeah. Just
Let
because
this
you
be the
interact.
sunshine of your day.
Exactly. Let's flip it around. And by having that mentality and that attitude versus like, I've got to sell something, we of course sold stuff. People wanted to do business with us because they came in and they
It's
felt
more like
better.
a natural response, though.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and then they trust you too because you care about them. It's not about building trust in a fake pretense. You literally do care about them. And that's what I see so much and can feel so much from both of you.
It's so true. Yeah. Yeah. I think that, like you said, difference maker, right? We want to touch people's lives in whatever way we can. And we're passionate about what we have to offer. So we know that other people are going to love it too. It's just the way you present it.
It's that energy.
Yeah. Right.
That's so awesome. And then it comes back to, having to do the hard grinding work. And I know you said you're different. You love the knocking on doors and you get to do it every once in a while, but you get to choose to do it, right? Versus I've got to go knock on doors today because to your point, you've built a business where it's now, you're getting a lot of referrals. Most of it's coming off from referrals. And that comes from standing behind your work and building those relationships.
I saw it as I get paid to go for a walk on a nice day and meet people.
Yeah.
I don't have any pressure. I don't have a product. I'm not trying to sell anything other than myself. And so, now it's built to the point where it can kind of continue to grow almost on its own, which is amazing.
It's amazing. So tell me a little bit more about your, SiriusNet networking group and, how you're building that.
We launched it in 2022.
Oh, I think so. Yeah.
So about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And like I said, we wanted to merge our two networks. So we call it the Brighton Fenton SiriusNet group. And so it's kind of a Livingston County team. And at this point, we have somewhere 15, 20 members in our group. And it's amazing. We have such an amazing group. We didn't start it off to be like the Christian Christian networking group, but I think like minds attract.
Yep.
And so this team is it's an awesome team of people who care about each other and have gotten to know each other outside the Zoom meetings or outside of just the networking events. I remember we suggested that we should all get together and somebody said, why don't we all bring our families? We all talk about our families. Wouldn't it be great to meet each other's families?
We did like a barbecue kind of thing one day.
That was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. We like to do in-person events here and there to, make it fun, but also like draw people together and just get conversations going, even if no one necessarily has a referral to pass or no one's looking for that business. Like just talk, just get to know each other, just step into each other's lives. And any amount of face-to-face interaction and conversation is going to just like deepen your relationship with that person. And you'll be more interested in what each other has to offer as business owners. But we've done some really fun events. One of the most recent one we did was the Headshots and Happy Hour event back in May, where we had one of the photographer who was in our business group set up, and she would just take headshots for, any business owner who came in. And I actually wasn't there personally, but you had a really good turnout of the people who were there.
We had a ton of people, not only just from our networking group, but business owners from all around the community because we really blasted it out there and we were able to.
And everyone wants a new headshot, right?
Heck yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Any little thing like that we can do that like draws people in and gets them in the door. And then, we're there to offer them, here, just get a headshot, get it for free, enjoy some snacks and drinks and chat with people. And really helps to grow our network of people, but it helps theirs too. And we just love meeting new people in the area. So
it's only natural to have a platform to be able to bring in people and meet people and continue those relationships.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I've heard so many times entrepreneurship or being a business owner is a lonely place, but I think if it's a lonely place for you, that you're doing it wrong because there are so many platforms like this where you can build relationships with people, you can get to know people, and it being that align like-minded, because you create the culture and then people are drawn to you as people.
Right.
And so you don't mean to go create this thing, but the people that are interested in who you are as authentic people are drawn to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you kind of step into it and realize these people are just like me, and they've been through the grind, they've been through the hard days, they've been through the victories and the win. And it's great to just be able to chat with another small business owner and know that you're in the same place and you can really understand what each other has gone through. And
you might end up marrying each other.
be careful.
Best case scenario.
It truly is.
I
We
never
are
break the
so
fourth
thankful.
wall and point at the camera, but that was a good one. See, I demoed before, so I had to demo that.
Love it. Oh, we are very thankful for that. Yeah. Yeah. Being entrepreneurs together is definitely like, I think that it's been really good. I guess it's just an example. Like there are lots of days where John has to like stay really late and he's got to catch up on stuff or like wake up at the crack of dawn and go into the office, and he's just like there all day and we don't see him through the day. And like he's got lots of really hard days too, where he comes home and the market is way down and
Dow was down 1,000 points yesterday. That was a rough day.
Oh man.
It affects him personally because he's listening to the clients and how much they're being affected by what they're looking at in their portfolios and whatever. And for me, being a small business owner, I just feel like I'm not like blinded to his world and what he's going through. It's almost more like I've got a window into it because I understand too, like when the market's down, it also affects my business. People don't want to go out and shop. So, and also I know like the late nights and the super early mornings, like I've been there a lot too, where I'm just at my store and it turns 1 o'clock in the morning and I'm still there working. Like I've been through days like that too. So like as hard as it is like to give up time, together, we know that it's temporary, it's for a purpose, it's going to accomplish something. And I feel like I can back that up and I can be part of that for him. And I think if I didn't have a mindset like that, like an entrepreneurial, I've been there kind of mindset, it would be harder for our family. Yeah. Yeah. But I think that we can really understand because we both know and we both been there. And like he sacrifices for me too. There's lots of times like this weekend, he's going to spend Saturday like watching the baby and I'll be at work. Like things like that happen too, where we, have to give up time together to focus on our business. But like we know it's for a greater goal, and we know that it's temporary. It's not always like this. Like we're putting in the grind now.
It gives us a lot of flexibility too.
It does. Yeah. On the flip side, there's times where we can take a couple weeks off at a time and go on family vacations.
I was gonna say, I've seen some great vacations
we just spent like 2 weeks in Italy, and that was like whether we could never do that if we, worked normal 9-to-5 jobs. Like it's our small businesses that gave us the flexibility to be able to do that and to take Samuel to see that new part of the world. Like how many people get to take their baby to experience that, and it was a really fun time for all of us, and we really enjoyed it. But yeah. We have a lot to thank for the way our businesses are to be able to do something like that. So there's ups and downs.
What I love about this is I just instantly had this flash of like 4 years from now when I had you guys on.
Yeah.
And we were talking about a totally different, right? And I don't know, maybe it's sooner, but I just think of that progression of like where Samuel's going to be, and again, in his
we'll have him on the podcast.
We'll have him on,
he'll
have his little
be like answering the phones for us and like
he'll have his lemonade stand that's crushing it and like, but again, like you guys are fostering and building that legacy and creating, he's going to see, and he's, you're creating a great human. I know you are. Phenomenal.
Well, he would love to be on. I know that. He loves people. He's very friendly. I think that he got that from us.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I'm super outgoing. Obviously, my wife, we met each other on the sales floor. So we met each other and now we're both do the same thing. Like as far as like we're both entrepreneurs. And so we have that same connection.
Oh,
and I think because we're both that type of people that when we're out in public, we'll strike up conversations with people. Like, and all of a sudden we're having like in-depth conversation with a complete stranger on the street. That my son is like very like, what are you doing stopping? Like, we're going to keep walking. Like, we're not going to have that conversation. He's getting better now, but it's funny watching him like not be the guy that's like super social.
Yeah.
I think I saw him downtown once and he was wearing a shirt that said Tracy on the back. And I was like, hey, Tracy.
Yeah.
I think I know your dad. And he's like, oh, great. Again.
It's always an excellent reminder that you can't get away with anything because I know so many people in town
Right,
and so many people know him. So
so great.
It is so great. I remember that wasn't that long after the podcast and that's so talking about change. That's the crazy thing and like measuring things through COVID. I had a little boy before COVID, like as COVID was happening. He was in 6th grade, and like I just remember him being like a little kid.
Yeah.
And now he's going into his junior year in high school.
That's great.
And it's like, it's just a different level and you
feels like
will
it's happened
feel it
so
and enjoy it.
fast,
It happens so fast. And we only have one. And so it's like one of those things of like treasuring every moment and stuff. But it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
He plays basketball with me in adult leagues or adult pickup games I play. And that's so awesome. I know you're going to love that one.
He's
I can't
so
wait to be able
excited.
to throw a ball. Play
Yeah.
baseball with Samuel. That'll be awesome.
It's phenomenal.
He's already teaching him. I don't know how much Samuel knows yet, but he does have a love for balls. Samuel does, so I know that came from Daddy.
So does Samuel have a nickname?
A baseball nickname?
Yeah.
He does. For the
Yes.
just for the
Okay.
backstory.
Yeah. Yes.
I have 5 brothers, and when each of us were born, my dad gave us all baseball nicknames for Major League Baseball teams. So my nickname is Ranger, and that's why I drive a Ford Ranger. I love the Texas Rangers. The Rangers had an awesome walk-off win yesterday. We were going crazy. But anyway, I was thinking if we have 6 sons and each of us have 6 kids, now there's more grandchildren than Major League Baseball teams. So how sustainable is this? And then I realized I could use minor league baseball teams. So we nicknamed Samuel the Rough Riders, which the
awesome.
Frisco Rough Riders are a minor league affiliate of the Texas Rangers.
That's beautiful. That's awesome. That is awesome. That is so creative. That's so cool. That's awesome. I love that story. Dude, this has been so awesome having you both in. Thank you so much for coming down and joining us and blessing us with your story. This is a great
Thanks for
motivation.
having us.
It was fun to chat. Yeah. We like to talk about, our businesses, and kind of even fun for us to like take a look back of where we've been and where we are now. And we need those reminders for ourselves too. It's easy to get caught in today and what it all looks like today.
It really does. We can be hard on ourselves sometimes,
Oh, yeah.
right?
I
And
know.
it's sometimes it's just consistency in doing the things, right? And just going out and knocking on the doors or doing the podcast over and over, going from 14 to 177,
Yeah.
and
Right.
in the growth in that. Because like I thought our episode was awesome, but then as I'm listening and I listened to the intro and I'm like, oh my God, I sounded like I was throwing up in my mouth as I was doing that. That sounds so funny. Just thinking about the things and like putting myself back in those shoes and just seeing the growth, I felt good about it back then. People that listened to it told me they liked it. But where's that growth when you keep going and keep putting the foot?
Always got to step forward.
Got to step forward. And then you look back 4 years later and you're
Right.
like, wow, look how far we've come.
Yeah, it's like putting a little pin in the map so that when we, 4 years from now, we can remember this day and the things that where we were in our businesses. And yeah.
Well, at the very least, we're going to be every 4 years. So if you don't get the invite sooner,
Schedule
4
it out.
years. Yeah, exactly. So
I love it.
thank you to you so much again for joining me. It's been awesome.
Thanks for having us. This has been really great.
My pleasure.
I appreciate it.